I am Chris Lee of Southeastern 14. Joining me today, my buddy Drew DeArmond. He works at ESPN Radio in Huntsville, Alabama. We're going to talk some Alabama football, maybe some hoops if we got some time today. Drew, thanks for joining us at a busy time. Hope you're well, sir.
Yeah, Chris, it's an honor to be on with you on Southeastern 14. I know you guys are exploding. You and Blake Lovell are good friends of mine. We've met through the years at the SEC basketball tournament. I'm a rarity in this business. I'm probably a bigger basketball fan than football, but I love football. I know it drives the bus, but love hoops. Glad basketball season's back upon us, but certainly we're all over Alabama football. We're an affiliate here at ESPN 97.7 The Zone, and been a disappointing year in context. I know almost every other program would be, okay, we've got 2 losses. We're ranked in the top 10, and they were by a combined 4 points. Everything is fine. We're going to be okay. But it's been kind of I don't know if catastrophe is a good way to put it, but it's the first time, to put in perspective, since 2010 that Alabama's really out of the contention almost for the SEC championship. So Alabama fans have been a little spoiled. They're not used to this, and certainly it's been kind of a reset for Nick Saban, and I think we're about to see the third one he's had during his time in Tuscaloosa.
Well, look, not a bad football team. You've had Alabama's had 3 games that have gone down to like the last play. 2 of them didn't go their way. All of them on the road, by the way. I mean, Alabama got a brutal road schedule as it turned out this year in the SEC. And with that and the disappointment, and I know it's not been a bad season, but it's Alabama. We've never seen anything like this. How does Alabama go about getting motivated with, I'm not going to say nothing to play for, but 538 put Alabama's playoff odds at 3%. It's tough to see a path. That's just not what Alabama's used to this time of the year.
Well, it's a valid question. I mean, you especially in this NIL era and in this transfer portal era, are guys going to be invested? Are they going to look to transfer? We've already seen guys at Florida, Kamar Wilcox and Brenton Cox. Of course, Brenton was sort of shown the door by Billy Napier's new staff, but we've seen guys in the middle of the season walk away or go into the transfer portal. We've seen it at Auburn. In Alabama's case, though, I don't think Nick Saban is getting ready to go to the lake. I think he's really wanting to, he's always been a problem solver. I use on my show a lot, and you've been with us, but I always say chess, not checkers. And I think he's always a guy that likes to figure things out. He's almost motivated by it because everybody, since he started getting it rolling in Tuscaloosa in 2008, they changed the recruiting rules to the bump rule. The head coaches couldn't get out on the road, so he switches to video conferencing. Then the hurry up, no huddle shows up. So he's like, okay, if this is what college football is going to be, I'm going to go hire, Darth Vader and Lane Kiffin and bring Lane into the program and transfer offensively what we're doing. And we're going to go from game managers to Heisman Trophy quarterbacks. And now, he's having to solve, the transfer portal, NIL. He's always kind of used it as motivation. He's also tweaked his recruiting and how he recruited defensively in this era of football. And so he's always been able to adapt. And so I think he's in the process of doing that now. And I think, even though he's 71 years old, his energy level is very good. He's very healthy. And as he's always told us, I've always been with a team, involved with one since I was a kid. And I can't imagine myself not doing that. I think it would also drive his wife insane. I think she likes to be involved with the program. And so I think he's a guy that, every SEC coach, and I even made this comment, and I meant it as a compliment to Vanderbilt University. When you think about what he's done for college football since he joined the SEC in 2007, and I remember when he signed his first contract, everyone was up in an uproar that he was going to make nearly $4 million a year. Now, even a school like Vanderbilt, I know they're a private school, but I'm pretty sure, and you can confirm this for me, that when James Franklin was in Nashville, he was making $4 million a year at Vanderbilt. So every coach in this league has now made that much money. And all of these coaches now, if they get dismissed, they don't ever have to work another day in their lives. I mean, think about Brian Harsin. He just got $15 million. Gus Malzahn got a huge $20+ million buyout. Now he's at UCF. So all these coaches, they're under a lot of pressure, but they're being very, very, very well compensated. And in some cases, when you're talking about the Alabamas, the Georgias, the LSUs, the jobs are almost more, more attractive than NFL jobs in some ways. And so, and it's all because of Nick Saban. He's allowed the SEC network to be built. He's doubled the size of the University of Alabama. And so it's what I've said on my show this week. If he were to be ready to walk away and go to the lake, you just thank him so much for what he's done for the state of Alabama, for college football, and having the greatest run we've ever seen. I mean, he's won 6 national championships. Oh, it's unbelievable what he's done for the sport. But I think he's ready for the final chapter of his career, or chapters, and I think he's going to reset for the third time. He did it in 2007 when he realized, okay, year one, back in the SEC, Major Applewhite, Kevin Steele aren't going to cut it. I've got to elevate Kirby Smart. I've got to go get Jim McElwain. Great move. Then in 2013, Lane Kiffin. And now I think we're going to see some more massive staff changes after this year, but that's just part of the game and part of what you're dealing with this the changing landscape of college football.
All right. You mentioned Lane Kiffin as Darth Vader earlier. That was Drew DeArmond that said that, and not me. I'll just use your words. Drew and I are
I
buddies,
wrote that back in
we kid a
2014, by the way. That was a headline of a story. Welcome Darth Vader to Alabama.
Well, Darth Vader brought some good things to Alabama football. Again, he's on the other sideline this week, and the popcorn game didn't quite materialize a year ago. But Ole Miss, the team with more to play for this year. It's a good offensive team. It's versatile. Defensively, it's sprung some leaks lately, as Alabama has occasionally in games too. How do you see this one matching up?
Well, it's very interesting, Chris. I don't really know what to completely expect. Honestly, I was very disappointed. I thought Alabama, coming off the bye, would play their best game of the year at LSU, considering what was at stake and considering the heartbreak that they got at Tennessee. Of course, I thought the officiating was atrocious in Neyland, but Alabama still had chances. I mean, you're talking about they had a catch. If they make Jahmyr Gibbs, he probably walks into the end zone, a 50-yard field goal they didn't come up with. Chances to make plays defensively. And so they dropped 152-49. So it was very disappointing. So I thought Alabama, with their history in Tiger Stadium of winning, of coming off of a bye refreshed, I thought they would beat LSU. I had seen LSU play. They'd improved, but I still thought Alabama was double digits better, and I thought they would play like it. I actually picked 38-20 for them to cover. Didn't come close to that. They dropped the game. Bryce Young had probably his worst game, but yet even with Bryce struggling, he was still magical. He still brought the team back, gave them 5 leads in the second half, Chris. They could not get a stop any time on those 5 times, on those either 4 drives or the 2-point conversion. So very disappointing to lose 32-31. So it does beg the question, how motivated will this team be? Now, I mean, I've watched Ole Miss. I don't think they've gotten better, so to speak. I think their defense has been further and further exposed as the year has gone on. Offensively, for the 3rd straight year, outstanding at running the ball, but they don't have Matt Corral at quarterback. Jackson Dart is not going to remind anyone of Matt Corral. If Alabama can contain the run, I don't see them stopping it completely. But I'm giving you a number like 150 yards or less, and if they can force a turnover or two, which they did against Tennessee, but did not come close to forcing one against LSU, and haven't really forced them all year. But if they can and be balanced offensively, I think they can win this game. Now, I think it's going to be high scoring because I like Quinshon Judkins, love him. I love their running game. I think Ole Miss is going to move the ball. And that's been Alabama's biggest bugaboo, honestly. In the 2 losses, they gave up 180 yards plus rushing. They did not pressure the quarterback consistently enough. And they didn't protect Bryce Young quite well enough either. So if they can do those 3 things against Ole Miss, protect Bryce, run the ball better. They didn't run it real well in the 4th quarter against Tennessee, did not run it nearly well enough against LSU. And if they can contain the run, I don't expect them to stop it, but if they can contain it, then I think they can win this game. But I think it will be a high-scoring game. I'm thinking a 38-31 type game. And if you look at Alabama on the road in the last 2 years, Chris, every game has been tightly contested and close. Yeah. And I think it's going to be close again. But I think Nick Saban and Alabama, hopefully they're going to show a little pride here as players. I know that's the question with all this NIL and transfer portal. How motivated are these players going to be? Well, Nick Saban's kind of brought that up this week. They've won 10 games amazingly for 14 straight years under Nick Saban since 2008. And the only way they're going to do that is to win out this season. Certainly, I think they're prohibitive favorites against Austin Peay and Auburn, but they're going to have to get what would be their best road win of the year against Ole Miss. I think even better than Texas. So, and then knock Ole Miss completely out of the SEC West race, because I do think that LSU is going to end up in Atlanta, but I don't know. The Sharps seem to know something. They've only got as you noticed, the LSU Tigers is a 3-point favorite on the road in Arkansas, so there's still plenty to play for on the Ole Miss side.
Yeah, that line surprised me too. Drew, I know you're on a limited schedule today. I wanted to talk some Crimson Tide basketball.
Sure.
Alabama beats Longwood 75-54 on opening night. I think Alabama had some guys hurt. What's your impression of this roster and maybe what this season's going to look like for Alabama?
I think they're going to be a lot deeper and better defensively. There was a lot of frustration the other night against Longwood, Chris, because they only shot 3 of 28 from 3. They didn't shoot it very well. Rylan Griffin made one, Noah Clowney, and I think Noah Clowney is one of the underrated freshmen in the SEC. I think he was a lot better than his rating coming out of high school as a stretch 4. He had 9 points and I believe 11 rebounds in the game. Certainly, Mark Sears did make a 3, but he struggled from the 3-point line as well. But he is a kind of a stat sheet stuffer. He's the transfer from Ohio. He had 12 points, but 10 rebounds. Really good rebounding guard with a nose for the ball. Had 5 assists. Did a nice job. And then the 2 things that I was looking for, though, is last year the Alabama team wasn't a great rebounding team most of the year. Their high for rebounds in the game was 48. They had 67 rebounds.
Yeah.
Against a good Longwood team who won
4 guys in double figures.
Yeah, and absolutely. Longwood won their league, went to the NCAA tournament. So they got 67 boards, and they defended very well. They held them to 58 points. They forced turnovers. They turned the ball over too many times themselves. But I think Brandon Miller, and you know him very well from your area in Nashville, he's a guy that's going to be one of the best freshmen in the Southeastern Conference in the country. He had 14 points, 13 rebounds. I saw him practice this summer. Nate Oates and I talked a little bit, and I was like, Coach, that kid's a freakazoid. He goes, yeah, he's even better than we thought. He's going to be really, really good. 6'9". He can play the 1 through the 4. The issue is, though, just get his motor to run all the time because sometimes he's so talented, you got to get guys to play hard. But he had 14 points, 13 rebounds. He didn't shoot the 3 well, but when they went on their foreign tour to France and Spain, he was very, very good. And I know he was really good in the game against Southern Illinois as well. And even in their secret scrimmage, they lost to a really good TCU team and didn't have, Javon Quinterly, Namari Burnett, or Charles Bediako. But he had 33 in that game. So I think they're going to be good. I expect an NCAA tournament berth out of this bunch. I think they can be maybe one of the top 5 teams in the SEC. But I think they're going to be better on the back end because right now they're trying to figure out where their rotation is and who's going to be in it. And they were without a key piece the other night, who I think could be one of their better defenders in Dom Welch, a really experienced grad transfer from St. Bonaventure, who's another guy that can shoot the basketball.
Yeah, Welch barely came off the floor at St. Bonaventure. What's the prognosis on return for he and Quinterly?
I think Dom will be back very soon. They're hopeful, I think, by December the 1st to have JQ back. He's made a really nice recovery. From what I've seen of him in practice, a little bit I got to see this summer, he's really moving well for a guy that's coming off an ACL maybe 8 months ago, Chris. I think he's going to be back in his role coming off the bench. And at times, and you saw this even, on this past Monday, is they can play 3-point guards together because I think Jaden Bradley came off the bench. He had 11, and he kind of knows who he is. He's not a shooter right now. He's a guy that needs to get to the rim. Sears is a big, strong guard, and I think JQ is a guy that you've seen, very good shooter, a guy that is very creative, can create for his teammates and himself going to the rim. And I think this guard play at Alabama is going to be the key. I think they're going to be much longer and bigger inside, but I think they at times can get Javon Quinterly, Jaden Bradley, Mark Sears on the floor together. And Sears is he's not the tallest guard, but he's a guy that's not afraid to rebound, not afraid to get dirty. And I think they got a lot grittier, tougher players this year on the roster and guys that are more winning oriented and not maybe as focused on the draft. And I think it's going to be a better college basketball team for Alabama in year 4 under Nate Oates.
All right, Drew, last question. Staying in the state, but not Alabama. I mean, we can't not talk about the Auburn coaching vacancy. I've heard through sources this week, no surprise. I mean, this was yesterday, and things can change in a nanosecond. Lane Kiffin appears to be the target at Auburn. I just don't think it's a great fit in terms of what Lane Kiffin is. With agents, you never know what is posturing to get your guy a raise and what's legit interest. What do you think the possibility is Lane Kiffin ends up in Auburn? What do you know about what's going on with that search?
I wouldn't be surprised if Lane's the top guy, but I don't expect him to take the job. I was asked about this in Mississippi on a radio earlier this week, and my thing with Lane Kiffin is, and the end game for Lane ultimately is one of two things. He either wants to be the next head coach at Alabama, which I don't think will happen, honestly. And that's no disrespect toward Lane. I just think they'd go in a different direction. But there's always that chance, especially if he continues to win at a high clip at Ole Miss. He was a coordinator under Nick Saban, had a lot of success. And you know the politics in the state of Alabama, Chris. If he takes the Auburn job, he will never get the Alabama job. And that's a fact. And I do think if not going back to Alabama or going to Alabama as head coach, I think his end game would be the NFL. He had a cup of coffee as a head coach with the Raiders. He didn't get along with Al Davis. And this is the way I equated it. If Cliff Kingsbury can be a head coach in the National Football League, then Lane Kiffin can. And especially all these owners love offense, and it's an offensive game. Lane is a guy that draws fans. He's a guy that is social media savvy. If you put him with the right owner in the right organization, he could be successful in the NFL. And so I think Lane's ultimate end game is either going to be NFL or Alabama, somewhere like that. He knows there's a ceiling at Ole Miss. No question. There is more, resources at Auburn. But you still have to go head up with Nick Saban. We don't know how much longer he's going to coach. And I know he's already going up against him every year at Ole Miss, but the expectations are different at Ole Miss. Right now, he's a king. If he wins 9 games a year or 10, he's going to have a statue of him. They're going to have Juice is going to have his own suite, all that stuff. So, I mean, he'll be a hero in Oxford. But if he goes to Auburn and does the same thing, it's not going to be good enough. So I think ultimately he'll flirt heavily with Auburn, but I don't expect him to go there. I still think the best fit for Auburn is Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, I do too. It doesn't seem like that's gotten a lot of traction, though.
Right. And a lot of it could be Sankey. And he does have a ton of baggage. But there's one thing he can do as coach. He beat Arkansas last week at Liberty. He beat Nick Saban twice at Ole Miss. We know the off-field conduct, and even of course, they got hit with recruiting violations. But he's an outstanding coach. I think his temperament is right for Auburn. His daughter went to Auburn, and I think he understands the university there. But we'll see. And if it's not those two, I really have no idea. Those are the top 2, in my opinion, for the job, because I don't think a guy like Matt Rule is going to go there. I think Matt Rule's a heck of a coach, but I think the likelihood of him ending up in Lincoln, Nebraska is much higher than Auburn.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. I heard that Rule is kind of the guy that Nebraska is going after, but Mickey Joseph is making things a little bit more complicated. He's well-liked. I think he's changed the culture, and Arizona State is also looking hard at Mickey Joseph too.
Good stuff.
So, in any case, Drew, thank you for joining us today. I know you're on a time crunch. Tell folks where they can find your work, your show, your Twitter, whatever you'd like to promote.
Yeah, absolutely. They can connect with me on Twitter at 977ESPN with our station, and on my account at DrewD977ESPN. And Scott Tyson and I bring you Talk and Ball Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. And I have a new recruiting show from 9 to 10 a.m. called the Recruiting Blitz, and we have a streaming channel, the Blitz Sports. And we look forward to having you on that as well, Chris. We've enjoyed the conversation with you and Blake on Talk and Ball, and we're excited about our new streaming channel, and they can follow me at the Blitz Sports as well. We're really excited about that, and we really appreciate you having us on this morning on Southeastern 14. We know you guys are exploding, and congratulations on all the success, and I hope the Kentucky fans aren't too angry with me for wearing a Duke hat.
They'll learn to forgive. Well, anyway, thank you for coming on with us today, Drew. You've been a good friend to the show. We appreciate you, and we'll find an occasion to have you on here at the 14 again soon.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. It's my pleasure.